Here we're going to add some signed numbers that have different signs. Now when we were adding the ones that had same signs, we looked at it and said, oh, if we're adding two numbers that have the same sign, we're going to get even more of the same sign. But here's something different happening. The two signs tend to cancel each other out. So if I have 5 positives, and it's helpful to kind of look at this visually first, and I'm combining that with, or adding it with, 2 negatives. If you take each plus and negative pair, they cancel each other out. And basically we're left with 3 positives. So 5 plus a negative 2 is going to leave me with positive 3, and we usually don't show the positive sign, so we just get 3 for an answer. So that's one way you can do these, is to just kind of look at what's happening with positive and negative signs. We can also think of it as a rule. We can say when we're adding signed numbers with different signs, we're going to keep the sign of the larger absolute value number. So in this case we have more positives because we have 5 positives, so we'll keep that sign. And then we're going to take the difference of the absolute values of the numbers. So then we're going to say, okay, 5 minus 2 gives us a 3. Alright, so let's try another one. And I'm going to show you a couple different ways to think about these, and just use whatever method makes the most sense to you. Negative 5 plus 2. So again we can look and say, alright, well, we are starting off with more negatives because we have 5 negatives and only 2 positives. So that means the final answer is going to be negative. And then ask yourself, well, how many more negatives do we have? If we have 5 negatives and 2 positives, we have a total of 3 more negatives. So these tend to cancel each other out, leaving a leftover of 3 negatives. So our answer is negative 3. And again, you can look at this with signs canceling out like we did over here. Another way that I want to show you is you can look at it with a number line. And if we start at negative 5, if we're adding positive 2, that means positive 2 is going to the right 2 spaces, and we see where we end up. If this is negative 4 or negative 5, then this is negative 4 and this is negative 3. So 2 spaces to the right, or plus 2, brings us to negative 3. And let's look at one more problem. Now it's hard to do the sign method or the number line method when you have larger numbers. So then you want to start thinking about it in terms of a rule method, which is adding 2 signed numbers with different signs. We're going to keep the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. So we have more positives because 64 is larger than 14. Therefore we're going to keep the positive. And then we're going to take the difference of the 2 absolute values, which tells us how many more positives do we have than negatives. Well, we have 64 minus 14, more positive than negative. So if I do that out, I get 50. So negative 14 plus 64 is equal to 50. And we don't usually show the plus, so we'll just put 50 for the answer.